Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome to the third information session or virtual town hall session for the Bacchus Marsh Eastern Link Road. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 restrictions and social distancing rules, we are unable to have a session in person. Therefore, we've set up this virtual meeting room. We do apologise and hope that we can meet again in person later in the next year. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands upon which we are meeting here today, noting that in this virtual environment, those lands may be many and varied. I would like to pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Before we get into it, I'll just go through some housekeeping. We've placed you all on mute for the presentation session, just to avoid background noises and so on. I would encourage you to also turn your video off, so that again to avoid distractions and yes, and also we are recording the session so that we can provide a recording on the webpage for you to be able to go back and have a look at the presentation that we will be providing later in your own time, and also for you to be able to rehash the questions and answers if you wish to do so. But also for those people who are unable to attend tonight, they will be able to go in and have a look and listen and glean some of the information that we're going to share with you today. For those of you who have not used Zoom before, in the top right-hand corner, there is a view button. You can change the view to allow only the video of the speaker to be presented, which is in this case me at this point, or you can change it so that the whole panel is to be seen. Either selection doesn't change the way you will see the presentation later. Excuse me. We are currently about 12 or 13 or so participants. So if this number stays, we will probably just open up the microphones at the end of the session for a sort of informal question and answer session. If the numbers get too high, we might decide to use the chat function, which you can access at the bottom of your screen, for you to write in any questions that you have, just to avoid people talking over each other and so on. We'll just have to see how we go and play it by ear a little bit. That's me in regards to housekeeping and rules for the session. I'll now like to introduce you to Michael Bailey, who's the Regional Roads Victoria Regional Director for the Grampians region, and also Gil Richardson, who will be taking you through the presentation. And Gil is the project director for this meeting. So with that, I'll hand over to Michael.
Beautiful, thanks Tina, and welcome everyone. Good evening. This is the third session we've conducted in regards to Bacchus Marsh Eastern Link Road. And before we get too far into it, I'd like to recognise the traditional owners of the lands in which we meet. Obviously that's very varied. Today I'm on Jabberung country, and I'll pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging. This is the third session of this. This is also the third time we've tried these virtual town halls. So there will be potentially technology issues throughout the process. If you have them, or if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. I'll hand straight over to Gil so that we can get started and away we go.
Yeah. Thanks very much, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. Just bear with me. Can I just check that the screen is sharing?
Yes, yes.
All good? Okay.
Gil.
Thank you, great. Thanks everyone. Yeah, I'm Gil Richardson. I'll take you through this short presentation. If I do have some audio issues, I do apologise now. Hopefully I'll get through this with not too many technical issues. So thank you very much for your patience. So this is, as Michael and Dean have said, the third virtual town hall meeting regarding the Bacchus Marsh Eastern Link Road project. This project aims to identify a route for a future road that will take traffic, especially heavy vehicles, out of Bacchus Marsh town centre. The road will be east of the town centre and connect Gisborne Road, Diggers Rest Comida Road intersection to Geelong Bacchus Marsh Road, either at Woolpack Road or Parwin Exford Road intersections. The population of Bacchus Marsh and Mattingley is expected to double by 2041. The Bacchus Marsh Urban Growth Framework identifies that a north-south link road to the east of Bacchus Marsh would help to ease congestion associated with predicted growth of new communities, particularly Miramu and Parwin Station. The road will enable access to and from a future Miramu residential precinct and Parwin Station precinct. While this project will present a future road alignment in the Moorabool Shire Council planning scheme, no funding has been made available to build a future road. The objectives you have on your screen were determined in consultation with key stakeholders. Objectives for the project include achieving a balance of economic, social and environmental outcomes consistent with the Transport Integration Act 2010. In particular, the integration of transport, land use and environmental sustainability. Planning for a north-south road has a number of key constraints, and it is not always possible to avoid these constraints. But significant investigation has been undertaken to minimise impacts where avoidance is not possible. We are currently at phase 3 of this project, but I'll recap on phase 1 and 2 in the next slides. Phase 1, the objectives and study area development. Initially, project team identified 200 plus corridor options using Quantum Trimble software. Identified feasible start and endpoints. Identified 5 study areas that were part of the 2019 community engagement. And we also undertook a number of one-on-one discussions with landowners. Regional Roads Victoria sorted through over 700 pieces of feedback from the Bacchus Marsh community and considered alternative options that would not impact the Avenue of Honour and areas of significant ecology. Phase 2, options development. 87 route combinations were identified within or in close proximity to the 5 study areas. Scoring and sensitivity testing was undertaken. Options removed that did not meet project objectives. Lower scoring options removed. Final scoring of 69 options. Phase 3, the options shortlisting. Initially, 10 options were identified for further investigation. Traffic modelling, cultural heritage assessments, and flora and fauna field surveys were undertaken. 4 stakeholder workshops were held between June and September this year to assess the 10 routes. 2 additional routes and an alternative south of the freeway were identified as a result of these further investigations. 3 route options and an alternative south of the freeway been shortlisted for community engagement. In terms of the options shortlisting, the multi-criteria assessment, 18 criteria were considered as part of the options shortlisting phase, covering economic, social and environment. The weighted scores form the basis for the final 3 routes and Parwin alternative route. The shortlisted options are shown on your screen. They're also available on Regional Roads Victoria website for the Bacchus Marsh Eastern Link Road project. Option A follows the Bences Road corridor starting at the Diggers Rest Comida Road intersection, swinging around to Flanagan's Drive here onto a new eastern interchange and a new road from the eastern interchange along the bottom of the Parwin Escarpment to Geelong Bacchus Marsh Road. Transport benefits for this option are moderate. There's a moderate impact on ecology and a lower impact on the Merrimoo development, the Bacchus Marsh Irrigation District and state and local heritage. Option B starts at the same intersection, the northern end, the Diggers Rest Comida Road intersection with Gisborne Road, travels to the east of Gisborne Road, south to a new freeway interchange, along the existing Western Freeway, down to an eastern interchange and along the bottom of the Parwin Escarpment to Geelong Bacchus Marsh Road. Transport benefits are moderate. This option significantly impacts the Bacchus Marsh Irrigation District, moderate impact on golden sun moth habitat, and a lower impact on Merrimoo development and state and local heritage. Option C, starting at the same northerly intersection, runs along Gisborne Road to the existing freeway interchange. Gisborne Road would be upgraded to 2 lanes in each direction, so a 4-lane road. Utilises the existing Western Freeway down to the eastern interchange and again from the eastern interchange along the bottom of the Parwin Escarpment to Woolpack Road and the Geelong Bacchus Marsh Road intersection. Transport benefits are lower than the other options, has a lower impact on Merrimoo and Parwin Station development, lower impact on the Bacchus Marsh Irrigation District, ecology and state and local heritage. The alternative southern option can connect to all 3 options north of the freeway and provide an alternative route from the Western Freeway connecting to Bacchus Marsh Geelong Road at the Parwin Exford Road intersection. It has potential to provide access for the Parwin Station Precinct structure plan area, is in shorter length compared to the route at the bottom of the escarpment. Your feedback, the interactive map has further information about each shortlisted route. An online survey is incorporated into the map and we encourage you to complete that survey. We'd appreciate feedback on all of the routes. However, this is not a popular vote. It's about finding the best route while balancing all the competing priorities I spoke about earlier. Next steps. Over the next 6 months or so, we'll be analysing the feedback we receive from this engagement period, as well as technical reports and feedback from key stakeholders. Mid-2021 to the second half of 2021, we anticipate being able to determine a preferred route, which will best balance all of the competing aspects and impacts. We will then start the formal planning approval process. In late 2021, early 2022, you as the community will have the opportunity to provide final feedback via the formal submissions process in a public exhibition phase of the project. All formal submissions and technical reports will become part of the formal panel hearing process in early 2022 before the final route is declared. Thank you for your interest. We're now going to open up to live Q&A session and Michael and myself and others will try and respond to each question. If we can't answer a question straight away, we'll take it on notice and include it in a frequently asked questions document that will be made available on our webpage. Same if we run out of time for tonight's session. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll hand back to Dina. Thank you.
Thanks, Gil. I'll just repeat that little last bit, what you said, because I couldn't quite hear it, so I assume others might not have been able to either. We will I will now unmute you all, or give you the opportunity to unmute if you want to raise a question. We will try and answer as many questions as we can. We will collate all the questions and put up a document on our webpage with all the frequently asked questions and provide the answers. So any questions that we can't answer today, we will take on notice and they will be included in this document. So I'll unmute you all now. Hang on, let me just find the right button. And we've already got Mary who has raised her hand. We've got two Marys here, so I don't know which one. You've got the first go. Nope, I can just hear a dog. Anyone else wants to ask a question?
We're talking to Mary?
Oh, it's very hard to...
That's my dog responding to the dog we just heard in the microphone.
What are you doing?
Just put her outside.
Winnie, come here.
She can hear a dog.
Well, how's that for interaction across council borders? So go ahead and ask your question.
Who's supposed to be speaking?
Well, you can continue if you've got a question.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I have four questions. Is that allowed?
Okay.
The first question is, why is this consultation process so rushed? It appears to me I only found out about this less than a week ago, and it seems to me that tonight is more or less the end of the consultation process. Can I go through and ask a whole lot of them?
Yeah, go on then. Yep.
Yes. The second one is why the route that's been chosen, or the options that have been chosen, appear to be much more destructive than the sort of solution that we have in Ballarat, where the major road has crossed the Avenue of Honour, and they've used a flyover, and I presume it was Regional Roads or Vic Roads that did that, and turned the whole Avenue of Honour thing into a much better deal for honouring the people who it was supposed to respect. And I don't know why that option hasn't been included in the choices to be made by the consultation process. The other thing, I would dispute the fact that in some of the literature, it's claimed that no old river red gums will be injured or removed. And I had a quick look at the route, and I don't believe that's true. I believe there'll be quite a few. So I think that's the end of my series of questions. Yes. Okay,
thank you, Bob. I might answer the first one in regards to the consultation process. We've got multiple channels for you to provide feedback. The survey obviously is one of them. These sessions is another one. You're welcome to send in beyond next week, up until, well, all the time. You can send in questions or request further information directly to the project team through the email address, bacchusmarsh@roads.vic.gov.au. You can contact us via our call centre on 133778 and ask for someone from the project team to call you back if you want to have a one-on-one discussion. We sent out letters to all the landowners and affected or very close to the alignments, and have already scheduled one-on-one sessions with them given their specific circumstances. So those are the avenues that we've set up, but the email and the phone call will remain throughout the project timeline. So it's not as if any feedback or any information or any request for contact after the 18th of December won't be acknowledged.
Okay, thank you.
That was the first question. I think the second question was the impact to the Avenue of Honour. I'll pass that over to Gil or Michael to respond to.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks very much for the question. So in regards to the Avenue of Honour, so yes, you will see that the shortlisted routes all go through an eastern interchange. During the shortlisting process, routes through the Avenue of Honour were considered. For those in the town hall meeting at the moment, who perhaps are not aware of some of the history, in approximately 2010, there was a proposal to extend Woolpack Road north to the Western Freeway and have a roundabout at Woolpack Road and the Avenue of Honour. Vic Roads at the time looked at a number of different roundabout options to minimise the impact on the trees of the Avenue of Honour. Heritage approvals were subsequently sought, and at the time the Minister for Planning rejected those approvals for heritage, so the roundabout didn't proceed, and the extension north to the Western Freeway did not proceed. However, we did revisit looking at some of those concerns that were raised approximately 10 years ago. We looked at some additional roundabout options, but slightly further east of Woolpack Road. Also looked at some overpass options. All of these options still had an impact on heritage. All of the routes that also either side, so on the north side of the Avenue of Honour and south, would also impact on the Bacchus Marsh irrigation district. And so when we looked at those key criteria that I spoke about in the presentation of ecology, heritage, irrigation district, and sort of the transport benefits, routes through the Avenue of Honour did not make the shortlist. There's also a separate process to the Planning and Environment Act. So any application for heritage approval, similar to what happened 8 to 10 years ago, would be assessed under the Heritage Act. It's since been updated to 2017. And there's a number of mandatory conditions that need to be considered, but they'd all be considered on their merit as well. So there's a number of factors at play of why some of those options didn't make the shortlist, but they were thoroughly investigated. Your third question was around River Red Gums. I'm not aware that we've put out anything publicly regarding River Red Gums. The question I recall was asked at our Saturday session about River Red Gums, and I've asked the project team to look at that in more detail so we can understand the impact on the River Red Gums. So particularly around the Eastern Interchange, around Lerderderg River and the Werribee River interface.
Thank you, Gil. Bob, does that answer your question?
Well, not entirely, but I think I'd have to leave it there because the map that's been put out for consultation isn't particularly clear because it doesn't include an aerial photograph. And so it's hard to align the map with the vegetation in each case. And it would be much clearer if all the vegetation, if that road map was overlaid, as we just saw there, overlaid over the top of a satellite photograph or something like that, that would make things a lot clearer. But it still seems to me that we're going to have significant impact on the old red gums. And I think there's 3 patches that are going to be severely impacted as far as I can see. So thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Bob. Anybody else got a question?
Yes, how do I do that?
You're on.
Can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Go
just
for it,
wanted to, good evening. I just wanted to ask a question to Jill. In his presentation, he mentioned that the project is focused on protecting the fauna and try to reduce the impact. And after maybe we didn't get the chance in that private session that we had before, we did not get a chance on trying to ascertain how, if they were to keep the entrance of Our Lady Tapinu Shrine on the hill to where it is and where it has been for the last 30 years. If they were to have a roundabout or like a 4-lane road going up that way, that means also that the exit from that entrance would be what is the option for the exits? Because
Yes.
so it and also the plan in what for us based on what I am just representing the administrator and the trustee here.
Yes.
What they mentioned and they wanted to have explained is if you're taking the entrance, you are just cutting off what we have got about 17 countries who call this place the home away from home. Even it is, well, it might be. So therefore, what sort of proposal are you guys coming up with? If that sort of impact doesn't seem to be significant in your project.
Yeah, no, thank you. And yeah, pleased to meet you. I think we had a chat this afternoon. So just maybe if I could clarify the question firstly, we're talking about the church entrance at Flanagan's Drive, correct? And at that, there's a current...
That's correct.
Yeah, so the current entrance has a brick entrance, right. and the alignment of the entrance aligns with some of the shrines. Is that correct? So it's quite important.
Yeah.
This was one of the real key things that we had a discussion one-on-one with the church and the administrator, etc. So we're not intending, clearly access firstly will be maintained through the existing driveway. We're not intending to move or relocate that driveway. The issue I think that we need to perhaps have a further discussion about is in terms of the access points in and out, particularly so coming from the old Western Highway into Flanagan's Drive, you'll be able to turn left into your driveway, you'll be able to turn left out of your driveway. The issue particularly, I think, will be the right turn out of your driveway, and for us as a team to make sure that that movement is safe, because you'll be heading towards the proposed roundabout at the corner of Flanagan's Drive in that particular option, and the old Western Highway or Bacchus Marsh Road. The right turn coming from the north in is probably not as critical because you will be able to make a U-turn at the new roundabout. So I think for us as a project team, we need to work through how do we provide a right turn out of your existing driveway that's safe.
That's the main thing, because one of the proposals that the priest came with was that whether or not you're at the end of Benson Street, whether or not there is possibility of an exit, so that they join the road. And in an entrance here, definitely the entrance is vital. We don't have any preference because we got an exit at Benson's Park.
Yes, I understand. So for the others in the town hall meeting, the church also owns land to what you would see on the ground, if you like, in terms of their current facilities. And some of that, the land they own to the north of their existing main property intersects with option A. And I think the question is, can we look at access at that particular interface? And that's something we could further explore. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josette. Any further questions?
Yeah, I have. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Great. What is the objective of Vic Roads for this project? What is its aim? What does it hope to achieve? Why is it building the road?
Thank you.
And that's not the end of the question. I have one more question after that.
Okay. Yep, that's fine. Did you want me to answer the first question?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
that's the first question.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Belinda. So the objective of this project is obviously, as I said earlier, to provide that north-south road link. And one of the key objectives is to reduce the current traffic volumes through the Bacchus Marsh town centre, particularly around Gisborne Road and Grant Street. And that includes also not only general traffic, but truck traffic as well. It's heavily, the existing conditions at the moment are heavily congested through that existing north-south corridor. Secondly, you may be aware that there's a proposed Merrimoo, well, there is a precinct structure plan, and they're planning for population in the order of 17,000 over the next 20 to 30 years. Similarly with Parwin Station, a population in the order of sort of 10,000 increase there. So over a period of time, as I said earlier, potentially doubling of the population, that obviously adds traffic to the existing road network. So without some form of road infrastructure upgrades, then the Bacchus Marsh Township, in terms of traffic congestion, will just continue to worsen, and in some areas become at gridlock at peak times.
May I suggest that this has very little to do with what's happening in Bacchus Marsh and how it grows. However, the objective of Vic Roads is to join Bendigo and Geelong together.
You can suggest that, Belinda, but as Gil...
How does that road help any congestion in Bacchus Marsh? I think it clearly shows that the main objective of Vic Roads is to connect one part of Victoria to another part of Victoria, going straight through our town. That's the objective. That's got very little to do with taking away any sort of congestion in our main centre.
Yeah, Linda, it's Michael from DOT. I'm the regional director. So I'm happy to have a conversation with you about the basis and the traffic generation for the centre of Bacchus Marsh. Probably best if we do it offline because it's likely to be a long conversation. But I can certainly say up front, there is no part in the scoping documents or the aims of this project that relates to connecting Bendigo and Geelong. So if you'd like to have a conversation offline, by all means, contact us through the email or through the call centre. And happy to
that was admitted by Vic Roads when we had a consultative session a few months back, that Vic Roads' objective is to connect those two centres. And if you want to do that, why are you destroying our town? Why are you putting such major construction of these sort of freeways through our town centre, or through which will be a town centre anyway? If all those different parts of Bacchus Marsh grow, you're putting through a major freeway through the centre of the agricultural district, aren't you? For the trucks, for trucks from Bendigo to Geelong. That's what you're doing.
So I'm not sure who's said from Vic Roads that was the ambition, because certainly the project team is on the call now, and I can see that they haven't indicated that.
No, not at all. No discussion with you. And also, Belinda, we've had many discussions with you regarding the fact that it is not a freeway. There's been many discussions with you that it is not a freeway. It is an arterial road, which will allow trucks to move out of the town centre and to allow those residents that are coming into Merrimoo development to actually access the network around Bacchus Marsh. There is already the traffic modelling is showing that it is already congested now. We've had many community members saying that it is gridlocked in the mornings and afternoons. And if you look at the traffic modelling, and we can discuss that with you later, it shows that without doing anything, and this road is actually not the silver bullet problem. It will the road that will actually help Bacchus Marsh. There's a number of things that will need to be taken place with council. Yeah.
Okay. All right. With all due respect, if you're going to solve Bacchus Marsh town centre issues, there's a lot easier way to do it that'll cost you a lot less money. We can talk about that, and I think we have talked about that. I can revisit that for you if you like. And if you want to keep the trucks out of Bacchus Marsh, I don't think Bacchus Marsh is any more congested than Keilor, than Deer Park, than any of these other centres. And a lot of suburbs in Melbourne, I don't think it's any more congested than that. And I think if you want to keep the trucks out of Bacchus Marsh, like many other suburbs do in Melbourne, you ask the trucks not to come into our town at certain points in the day, for certain hours in the day. You don't need to destruct our town.
But it's not just the trucks, Belinda. There's, like we're saying to you, there's heaps of residential development coming in.
That's all right.
With Merrimoo and Parwin.
You can solve that with inner Bacchus Marsh ring roads. You don't have to put your arterial road right through the centre of our agricultural district for Bacchus Marsh residents. There are other solutions. So I would again suggest that the objective of Vic Roads is to create some sort of major arterial route for many, many, many trucks in the centre of our agricultural district to connect Bendigo and Geelong. Why would you be putting such a major road through Bacchus Marsh anyway?
So, Belinda, as I mentioned, yeah, obviously you're quite passionate about this. I'm happy to have the conversation.
I'm very passionate because I know my town.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not denying that, but there's a lot of data that supports what we're doing. We're also working closely with Mirrabul Shire Council around all the different alternatives, and some of the things you have mentioned through that conversation are things that we are considering, things that we're planning for, things that we're looking to do as well. So happy to have that conversation with you directly, and we'll work through it.
You wouldn't be spending this much money to save Bacchus Marsh, let me tell you.
Thank you. I think we've answered your...
Thank you.
Please well, you've got our contact details, so maybe be in touch with a time that suits you, and then we can arrange another meeting. Has anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, my name's Sam, actually. I've got a little bit to say. I've lived in the Avenue for 61 years, and I drive trucks and everything else. Now, I've seen the Avenue grow, and I've seen the congestion in the main street grow and everything else. Now, I think you're making a little bit of a mistake by saying that the transport side is actually a congestion to the centre of town. I think you'll never solve that problem, because people from Darley going to the train station or the other side to Manly aren't going to go around the new so-called arterial to miss the traffic. I don't think the trucks are actually a big concern, because I go into Bacchus Marsh probably several times a day, and I don't actually see that many trucks go through there. So I think you're making a big mistake taking agricultural land away just for trucks alone, for transport alone. You're not going to solve the problem for the centre of Bacchus Marsh by producing another road outside of the town towards Woolpack Road to get the traffic to go around. That's not going to happen. People aren't going to travel that far around to get to their destination on the other side just to obscure, I suppose, the traffic in the centre of town. There's got to be another alternative from that.
If your objective is saving Bacchus Marsh, but you
won't change the manner of people going from one side of town to the other. They will not take a long way around to get to their destination. It's not going to happen.
Thank you, Sam. I see that you are with Belinda, I believe. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I'm her
microphone. Yeah. Well, you're more than welcome to join the meeting with Belinda and Michael and maybe Gil or Julie, and we can explore those concerns and those suggestions that you have further.
How much money are you planning to invest in this project?
Gil, can you respond to that, please?
Am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to take it off mute. Sorry about my dog. Apologies. When the budget was or the funding was provided for this project, there was a $3 million planning study.
That's a planning study. But what about the construction and the requirement of land and everything else? What's the total figure for that? Because obviously you've got to acquire the land.
Well, that's potentially correct. So just to clarify, this is phase one, if you like, or step one is the planning phase to get a preferred alignment. Step two is about going through a formal planning process and establishing a public acquisition if it's required in the Moorabool Shire planning scheme. And then step three would be to seek construction funding through the state budget process. So during that the formal planning process and preferred alignment, we'll be doing some costings in relation to construction, land acquisition, all of the normal engineering things. So we'd be in a better position to understand for each of the options, so the three options, what the costs are.
So you're talking about $1 billion project in Bacchus Marsh.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, if this consultation process is just costing $3 million, then to follow through with all the other steps that you've just mentioned, to finalise the project with the road being built and constructed, and it seems quite a lengthy construction process. We're talking many hundreds of millions of dollars, aren't we?
Well, we haven't done the costing, so I can't say that. And in relation to the finishing of this planning phase of this project, that will be undertaken within that budget allocation.
So does that mean you might acquire my house that's right on Woolpack Road?
I'm not sure your exact address, but if it's along the Avenue of Honour, there's no routes that are going through the Avenue of Honour. They all go through the Eastern Interchange. If you have been potentially affected by any of the routes you see on our website, then landowner letters have been sent to either directly or indirectly affected landowners. Indirectly, what I mean by that is adjacent to a road. And we've already had a number of individual landowner meetings, and we'll continue to have more of those meetings to discuss their specific circumstances.
All right, okay, we'll see what happens then.
Thank you, Sam. Liz? Yep.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank you because I actually find this consultation really, really assuring. And I mean, the detail that you've talked about going into to even start to make the decision sounds really good to me. I was in, I fed back on a survey earlier, so I can see the movement from that to where we are and how concerns about, the Avenue of Honour and stuff have been taken into account. So I guess my question, well, also I just wanted to point out to the guide before that I live in Darley, and in a normal year I would be regularly, daily travelling to the train station. And now that Hallett's Way is open as well, it does provide an alternative route for people in Darley, just wanted to say. But anyway, on this topic, I've just had a look at the website. So I'm just curious about option A. It talks about it having the ecological impact and being that being more of an impact with this option than others. And I just wanted to find out if we could get some more information about what that impact is.
Thanks for the question. Mainly relates to native vegetation along that corridor, particularly around golden sunmoth habitat. That's the main area. A number of surveys have been undertaken in relation to flora and fauna. At this stage, there's been no identified golden sunmoth themselves, but there is habitat, and there's been no identified sightings of striped legless lizards. So we've been having to making sure that we look at potential impacts on the ecology, both from the federal legislation, which is called the Environment Protection Biodiversity Conservation Act, as well as the state legislation, which is the Flora and Fauna Guarantee Act. So it's mainly in relation to vegetation and habitat potentially. And then further south along Bence's Road, where we go through a sort of a gully area towards Flanagan's Drive. So there's a number of trees there that also we need to assess in further detail in terms of how significant those are and whether we can avoid those in finding an alignment through onto Flanagan's Drive. The middle route, so route option B, there's a smaller patch of golden sunmoth roughly around the Buckley's Road area. And the Gisborne Road route, which is largely within the existing road reserve, has very little ecology impacts.
Thank you.
Liz, can I just reply to you? So when Vic Roads initially set up this project quite a few years ago, when they wanted to rip through Woolpack Road, it was actually myself, Damien, and the Avenue Preservation Group that provided that Hallett's Way road for you, because the council, although they talked about it for not many years, but numerous decades, could not do anything about it. It was myself, Damien Stranger, and the Avenue Preservation Group that pushed through Hallett's Way for you.
Well, very appreciative.
Thank you, Liz. Great.
It's nice to connect community.
An alternative to Gisborne Road, which is very
shocking. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that, Belinda. Has anybody else got any questions? The young man who's just got the phone number, I think you had your hand up before. I don't know your name, unfortunately. You've just got your phone number as your name. Did you want to say something? I've unmuted you. No. Sorry, we can't hear you. Sorry, we can't hear you. You can use the chat function if you like. At the bottom, there's a chat function where you can send in your question. Waiting for that question to come through. Has anybody else got a question?
What's the preferred route? You've had a one-to-one with the growers, or with the affected landowners, I should say. What is their preferred option to your, from the discussions that you've had with them, what is their preferred option?
Well, firstly, there's further discussions ongoing for next week as well. And obviously, we've had those individual landowners to understand their concerns, and and I don't want to say anything specific because it's obviously their points of view, but there has been a cross-section of views around the various options.
Okay. So you said the Gisborne Road option has the least impact. I'm not very good with maps. I'd have to see it visually. The Gisborne Road option, where does that go through?
So the Gisborne Road option, when I say impacts, the question was around ecology, so flora and fauna, not about other impacts. I was specifically about ecology. The Gisborne Road route is option C in our website. It starts at the intersection of Gisborne Road and Diggers Rest Comida Road, runs down the existing Gisborne Road, but Gisborne Road will be upgraded all the way through to the Western Freeway interchange.
All the way through to the Western, going through which road? Gisborne Road going through where?
Yeah, Gisborne Road would be upgraded to the Western Freeway interchange. And as I said earlier, it would be an arterial road, 2 lanes in each direction, and the intersection with the freeway would also be upgraded to provide additional capacity if that route was the preferred route.
Right, okay. And so can you, okay, now I've got that in my head, and I apologise to everyone that understands maps and north, south, east, west more readily than I do. That's the what can you explain the other few routes, please? Which roads do they go through?
Okay, so
Gil, I'm just
this
sorry,
will be
Gil.
all.
I'm just wondering whether it would make sense to bring up the presentation again and show the maps and then explain along.
Yeah, along the maps. Yeah, that would be good.
Would that help you, Belinda? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Which roads does it go through?
So Gil's just going to share his screen again, which just bear with us. It'll take a few minutes to load up. Excuse me.
Can I check if that's loaded correctly?
Yes, it is, Gil. Thank you.
Okay. So the first option A is on our. This is on our website. Option A starts at. They all start at the Diggers Rest Commiter Road intersection with Gisborne Road.
The Diggers Rest.
Option A runs along Bences Road and Flanagan's Drive. Option B runs to the east of Gisborne Road down to a freeway interchange and then utilises the existing freeway down to the eastern interchange. And option C, the one we just discussed, Gisborne Road, runs down to the freeway interchange with an upgraded, utilises the existing western freeway and then to the eastern interchange. And then from the eastern interchange, there's two options, one at the bottom of the escarpment here and one on top of the escarpment, the yellow one here. Or if you want a blow up of those, that's A, that's B, that's C, and that's alternative southern option.
Thank you, Gil.
Are we going to have any community face-to-face meetings, or where things are a lot more easily pointed out as far as the road construction goes?
Unfortunately, at this point, as I said before, due to COVID restrictions, we're not able to meet in person, hence this virtual town hall and not an actual physical town hall. Later in the new year, when restrictions ease, we might consider maybe a sort of like a pop-up or something, but it will depend on the process that the project team takes. But there will be, as Gil said in his presentation, once the preferred route is chosen, there will be another round of consultation and options to provide feedback. And at this stage, depending on COVID restrictions and the vaccine and all these things, I would anticipate that we can do that in person. But yeah, I obviously can't make any promises.
Okay.
And there'd be an opportunity through the formal planning process for community input. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Can you explain? There's one option that I've heard being spoken about, and that's the option that goes around the strawberry farm. Which option is that one?
I'll just share my screen again. Sorry, I took it off.
Can you explain where the strawberry farm is, Belinda, for those?
At the top of the avenue, the start of the avenue.
Oh, okay. So at the eastern end, at the Melbourne side?
Yeah, so I'm not good with east-west, but right at the start of the avenue.
Yeah, so the Melbourne side, yeah, that's the east side, yeah.
Yeah, it's approximately, again, if my screen should be sharing.
All good now. Your voice just dropped out, that's all.
Sorry about that. Yeah, the strawberry farm's located at the eastern end of the Avenue of Honour, and all of the routes that I just showed you all go from the eastern interchange and then head either along the bottom of the Parwin Escarpment or the alternative on the top of the Parwin Escarpment, trying to avoid and minimise the impact on the farming and irrigation land.
Gil, you can't hear you. Gil?
Okay, I'll say that again then.
Now we can.
Yep.
Now we can.
Okay. So the area you're talking about is at the eastern end of the Avenue of Honour. And each of the 3 options that I showed you go through the eastern interchange, either at the bottom of the Parwin Escarpment or the top of the Parwin Escarpment, to try and minimise the impact on the irrigation.
Thank you. Just looking at the time, we've got 4 more minutes until the official end of the session. Has anybody else got any questions?
This is Bob. Is it true? Can I go ahead?
Yes, go, Bob.
Yes. It seems to me that of all of the options presented, all of them are going to have an impact on orchards and the edge of the strawberry farm, if not the total strawberry farm at the eastern end of the avenue. Is that correct?
Just in relation to the broader Bacchus Marsh irrigation district, it impacts on the whole study area. So what I mean by that is to find a route from north to south, however you want to position it, somewhere along the line it needs to intersect or cross over the irrigation district at some point. We've had a number of stakeholder meetings and had stakeholders responsible for both the irrigation district, and also you may be aware there's also a Department of Land, Water and Planning study on green wedges and agricultural land. And we certainly understand the significance of the irrigation district, the farmland, the strawberries, the orchards, etc. And we're trying to minimise as possible those impacts. And that's why we're also having those individual landowner meetings, particularly all landowners, but we're also meeting with some of the irrigators, the farmers, to understand if one of those options is chosen and it goes through part of their land, their irrigation land, how can we manage those impacts? How do we provide access? How do we not overly segregate areas to make other areas less viable for farming? So all of those things are in consideration. So we're trying to avoid or minimise, but avoidance of the whole irrigation district, given its extent, you cannot do. You need to get a north-south road in. There has to be some encroachment somewhere if this project is to proceed.
Unless you took it out of the valley altogether.
Yeah, that's right. Good on you, Bob.
Took it out of, sorry?
Unless you took it out of the valley altogether.
Take it out of the valley altogether.
Yeah. So, well, then you'd be, yes, I mean, you could not proceed or you could take it out. You can't really go west because you're getting other constraints with residential and Lerder Gorge, etc. And then to go further out of the valley, you're then on to the east side of Long Forest, and then those distances in terms of the objectives of the project, which is about managing that existing and future traffic through Bacchus Marsh, then driving all the way further west to come back to Geelong Bacchus Marsh Road. I just don't see that as practical in achieving the objectives.
Thank you, Gil.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for your question.
Can I just say, you put a road through this district, you open up the whole district for subdivision. I'll be happy for that because I can sell my land and make a lot of money and I can retire. But what you're doing is you're destroying a whole food bowl for not only today's Australians, but tomorrow's Australians also. Vic Roads has put their roads through many agricultural districts. Once they are concreted over, they are gone. Once they are concreted over, you cannot be fed. Once they are concreted over, I can grow produce in the desert, but I will be using plants that have been modified, so they're no longer natural, and I will be using a lot more chemicals because that produce does not grow naturally in those districts. So what you guys are doing is really irresponsible. Get it out of the valley, get it out of our farming district, because you don't have a lot left. You've concreted over Cranbourne, you've concreted over Templestowe, you've concreted over Doncaster, you've concreted all of those natural, incredible areas that grow food beautifully and naturally. And now that's what you're doing here. The last remaining part of agriculture that's available so close to Melbourne, that has the perfect soil, perfect water conditions, perfect everything. You guys are concreting it over. Well done. You know, you really need to think
Thank
about
you for
that.
your comment, Belinda, but I think we get your point.
Thank you.
We've offered, you know, as we said before, we're more than happy to have a chat to you in person, but let's give other people a chance to have their say as well.
Well, Bob's in the same, thinks the same way as me, so obviously
I'm
get
sure
it
that
out
there
of
will be
Bacchus
others who
Marsh.
think the same as well, and there'll be others who might prefer a road to get quicker access to places where they need to go, but that's not the discussion here tonight. So has anybody else got any questions to the exec team? It's 7:32. The session was scheduled to finish at 7:30. So if there's no more questions, we're happy to stay on. But if there's no more questions, I'll close the meeting. I'll thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your interest in the project. I'll just plug again that on our webpage there is a survey where you can provide feedback on each of those three and the alternative routes, or on each of those four options. Our email address is bacchusmarsh@roads.vic.gov.au if you want to contact the project team directly, or call us on 133 778. That's the call centre number, and request for us to call you back. The project team will be happy to arrange meetings with you one-on-one to discuss this project any further.
Thank you.
Again, if there's no more questions, I'll end this meeting now, and thank you for your attendance, and please stay safe and have a wonderful Christmas break, everyone.
Thank you, you too.